Gearbox is great. But yeah, I think they've done an amazing job on the chassis. Chassis, suspension, lovely bike, super fun. I think Honda have done a great job here. Excellent work, boys. This is back to your best.
G'day folks, welcome back to the channel. We are talking about Honda's CB1000SP today. Does it live up to the hype? Short answer, yes. This is probably the best bike that Honda make, I think. It's fun, it's super well priced, 19,200-ish on road. It's got an amazing, awesome engine and drivetrain, extraordinary suspension. For the price, for the price, it blows me away. Really involving, really engaging, really exciting motorbike to ride. The stats don't tell the whole story on this one. They definitely don't tell the whole story, because from an on-road usability perspective, this bike is as good as they come.
This is an absolute cracker. And not just a cracker for the price, because that price is extraordinary. A little bit over $19,000 gets you on one of these. 2017 Fireblade derived engine that makes 155 horsepower, comfortably over 100 newton meters of torque. I think 107 or thereabouts. It's relatively light, a bit over 215 kilos. It is nice and agile, yet super stable. It has Brembo style Emma calipers up the front. It has an Öhlins TTX shock in there. There we go. You can see that bad boy in there, hopefully. And it's brilliant. The whole thing just meshes together really, really nicely. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of my old Fireblade in a good way. It's a little bit raw. It's got a little bit of character. But it's not overwhelming, and the chassis isn't so tight that you've got to be doing a squazillion kilometers an hour to make it work. They've really worked hard to get the lateral flex right on this chassis. So this chassis is quite different to the CB1000R chassis, the old model that we don't get in Australia anymore, that retro inspired bike that I quite like actually, but it was lacking a little bit in the rear shock department, that bike. This is the shock that they actually probably should have put on that. That would have solved a lot of things, but I'm loving this. So we're going to jump on this, just tootle down the coast here. Down here, nice little afternoon down the coast in Victoria. And I'll tell you a little bit more about it in 1 second. So we'll see you shortly.
We only get the SP version in Australia. In other markets, there is another slightly lower spec version that doesn't get the Brembo style Emma brakes on the front, or the Öhlins TTX, the shock on the rear. And I think those are probably the last pieces of the puzzle that really transform this bike into being super capable.
One of the things I think they've done really well with this bike is the suspension. They've really matched that front and rear very nicely. So they've got a Showa fully adjustable forks up front, 41mm I think they are, and that Öhlins shock out the back. And I am about 87 kilos plus gear. I have not had to touch the clickers. I've not even thought about it. Just jump on and the bike feels great straight away.
It's a firm, sporty ride, but it's still comfortable. Now this seat, while it might look quite sporty, and when you sit on it at first, it feels kind of flat, but you can easily do 2 or 3 hours in the saddle in here, and not a problem at all. So really comfortable seat, really comfortable ride position. Obviously, it's got the wide flat bars, not clip-on, so you're not weighted over the front.
Really nice and easy to tip side to side. It's got a 180 rear section on the back, so that might be a little bit narrower than some other full-size bikes. I think that helps, or it definitely helps to help change direction. But yeah, if you want to flip side to side. It's super nimble, and I think this is one of those bikes that while you jump on and immediately think it feels great, which it does, I've no doubt that if I spent, you know, a month or 2 months riding this bike regularly, this would be a proper weapon, because this is a fun thing to ride, like really fun. You know, this is an everyday sports bike. You know, and the chassis that they've built in this, as I said before, they've worked really hard on getting the right amount of lateral flex in there, so you get a lot of feeling back at speeds that are, you know, that are not hypersonic speeds. So, you know, you're having half a crack down your favourite little twisty road, and it feels awesome. You're getting lots of feedback. That's the thing I love most about this bike, is that unlike, you know, other modern sports bikes, you know, your super sports bikes, your Panigales and R1s and that sort of stuff. Gee, there's a lot of wet litter on the road here. You know, unlike those bikes, and even, you know, even my old Fireblades, the last couple that I had, you had to get them really up, and, you know, you're probably doing $180 before the chassis starts working. Whereas this feels like it's doing stuff at sensible-ish speeds, you know. Bunch of bit of possum guts there. Now, I don't know if you can pick it up, but that green moss in the middle of the road here is a bit slippery, so we're not exactly going to go tear-assing it up too much. But it feels alive.
But yeah, really it's about the way that it handles and goes. And this engine, as I said, 155 horsepower, more than 100 newton meters of torque, really smooth, super smooth off the bottom, beautiful chunky mid-range, because this is in fact the 2017 Fireblade engine that's been retuned. It's been retuned for more mid-range torque, and it really pulls beautifully through that mid-range.
It fairly rips. It's nice and smooth, really smooth actually. I'm loving this engine a whole lot. As I said, it reminds me a lot of some of my old Fireblades, probably earlier than what this engine is actually from. So my last couple of Fireblades that I had were in the 2000s, so an 05 model, an 08 and an 09. It reminds me a whole lot of them in all the good ways. It sounds right, it feels right, it's nice and smooth. In fact, it's no doubt it's a whole lot smoother than them, and it's beautiful and smooth down low, this bike, into that, you know, terrific creamy mid-range, and then it fairly screams when it gets up the top. So, you know, it's been retuned for torque, but don't think for a minute that this doesn't have a decent top end, because it absolutely does. Yeah, it's a very, very nice engine. Hearing that throttle on occasion, like it's just a little eager to get off the throttle and on the throttle sometimes. You definitely get used to it. But I have no doubt, if this was my bike, I'd probably be getting a tune on it. I would 100% be putting a slip-on on it and releasing more of that beautiful exhaust note. So you sort of get a 2 for 1, right? More sound, get a custom tune on a custom map, or there's probably like a Gabbro map or something that would really smooth that throttle out. And this would be even more heavenly than what it is right now. It's good. It's just a beautiful thing to be on.
Really slick quick shifter on this bike. Probably, I think the slickest quick shifter that I think I've ever ridden on a Honda. Really nice gear shift. The gearing has been revised from the Fireblade gearbox, I think all the way through to 5th gear. Yeah, different spacing, and on the road they work perfectly. Really good exhaust note too for a stocker. Now that's a pretty big can that you can see there. But yeah, great exhaust note. Sounds really racy. I'm going to start it up here in a second and move this mic down so you can hear it. But yeah, really nice, racy, loud exhaust note. How they've done that with a stock exhaust and got away with it, I'm not entirely sure, but it's probably something to do with having an exhaust valve down in there that the lower base model doesn't get in the overseas market. So that gives us an extra 5 horsepower over that other base model. Yeah, let's fire it up. That's proper racy and surprisingly loud. So it's probably echoed in here. I'm not sure how well that's going to come out, but yeah, that's pretty cool. Dash, clocks, typical Honda stuff. Same layout and same functionality as a lot of the other Honda models. It's not amazing. I don't love it. I don't hate it. It does its job. And I think for this sort of money, you get what you pay for, right? You can't really complain about that. The only thing that I think, they could do better is remember your customized traction control settings when you turn the key off.
You have two, that little heart up there, that's your mode. You have 2 custom modes, that's number 1, that's number 2. Then you've got your standard sport and rain modes. So yeah, nothing too dramatic there. You can go in and fine tune them. Jump across here, down, in. There's my user mode number 1 that we want to jump into. Traction control, we'll turn that off. Engine braking nice and low and power up high. And for number 2, we will also have that, and we'll just turn traction right down. So there we go.
Bit of a glitch in the system that it doesn't remember your TC settings once you key off and turn on. So for me, that's a bit annoying because I like to have at least one mode that with traction control turned fully off, and I would like that to always be there, so I can just restart the machine and it's back in that base setting again.
I think more manufacturers should just have a TC button right here on the left, please. That'd be fabulous.
Brembo style armor calipers up front. They're not Brembos on the back, but I think some people will say that the style armor calipers they're not the top of the line calipers from Brembo anymore, and they're not. That mantle goes to the high pure calipers, but those style armor calipers are more than enough for on the road. They're really nice, and I think if you're the type of person that will feel the difference between a style armor caliper and a high pure caliper, then you can start messing around with brake pads and that sort of stuff as well, and you'll get the feel and the bite that you need. For me, this is more than enough for on the road, and as a balance for riding it in traffic, if you're riding it when you're not really getting up it for the ramp, then I think that pad choice is actually pretty good. This has got the new wheels off the latest Fireblade as well. It's amazing what this bike has for the money. I can't sort of stress that enough. Build quality is really nice on this bike, with one call out, and that would be that I think this beautiful matte metallic black paint without a clear coat on it is probably a little bit susceptible to scratching. So, if you get road grime and stuff flung up on the inside of your knee and on the side of the tank there, I think that's potential for there to be scratches there. I'd be looking at putting some grip tape or, knee stomp grips or something on the side there to protect that. There's a few nice little touches. We've got some machining down here on the foot pegs. That's not mirrored with your pillion pegs, interestingly enough. So there's Some detail that's really nice on this bike, and other bits that's probably not matched up, like your castings on here. You know, you'd probably want to get the buff pad out and shine them up a little bit more, and you could probably do the same with your, you know, with your other ones down there as well. But by and large, it's really hard to fault.
It doesn't have a current generation, you know, 6-axis IMU for, you know, advanced cornering, traction control and ABS. It doesn't have a few other things. Obviously it doesn't have cruise control, it doesn't have heated grips. You know, it doesn't have adjustable traction control on the fly, all that sort of stuff that, you know, yeah, sure, in an ideal world you'd have those things, but you're not going to get that for under $20,000. This is under 20 grand. And so I reckon they've made the right call. I reckon for a real world sports bike, they've got the power in the right ballpark. You know, usable power, 155 horsepower, lots of torque, nice gearbox, it's comfortable, it's priced well, and if we're honest with ourselves, most of us, most of the time, don't need adjustable traction control. We don't need cornering ABS, that's super duper smart. You know, I think for the type of rider that's potentially interested in a bike like this, 19,200, I keep coming back to that. It's an absolute bargain.
You know, all my full thoughts and the full specs are on the, you know, MCNews review article. Go and check that out. But this is the type of bike that I personally think that most sports bike riders should actually be riding. You know, on the road, probably what, 97, 98, 99% of the time you're not using any more than 155 horsepower. In fact, most of the time you're probably only using 120. You know, you're often not using all the full torque either. So when you think about the bikes that are making 200 plus horsepower, that's cool. Occasionally you get to, you know, to really stretch their legs, but most of the time you're not using that much. So, you know, spec sheet, as I said before, doesn't really tell the full story. But it reminds me of old Fireblades. Oddly enough, because it's got a Fireblade engine in it. It sounds like a Fireblade, goes like a Fireblade. But I think more importantly with this chassis that they've done a lot of work on, they've worked really hard to fine tune the amount of flex that's in it. It works on the road, and it works at, you know, not mind-bending speeds. It works at, you know, engaging speeds, at normal speeds that we'd be doing out on the road. So throw it into a corner and you get heaps of feedback. It feels really, really nice. Lots and lots of engagement from the bike that you just don't get on a sports bike on the road, because those chassis are designed to work at much, much higher speeds. This is, for me, this is where it's at, this sort of bike. Feels fun, it feels fast. I think Honda have done an awesome job. This feels finished off. It feels like they had their A-team on this one in terms of, you know, making sure that it was, as a package, it really comes together. So if you can get a ride on one of these, I think you're going to want to have your checkbook handy, because yeah, these are really good. This is one of Honda's best Acura motorbikes.